Hello everybody, and welcome back to episode 7 of my Introduction to Unity VFX series, where I teach you all about VFX and show you different techniques that we'll be using and that I use all the time. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Fresnel effect, which is always used by artists, VFX artists. We love this. We're always putting it on orbs, putting it on characters. I'm sure you've seen it many times in games. First things first, I want to talk about my Patreon. I've decided to start up a Patreon. Only one tier right now, which is $5 a month, and it's going to give you access to this project where I'm going to keep it up to date. Every time I do a new video, I will upload this project and all the files will be in, all the materials, all the shaders. It's going to be free use. Feel free to just use these shaders, these materials in your own projects if you would like. Whatever you want to do, I don't care. Just don't sell it on the asset store, I guess. That's my only stipulation. That would be weird. But if you want to use it in a game and sell your game, that's not a big deal. So yeah, $5 a month, only tier I have. If you have other ideas for Patreon tiers I could do, I would totally be down, but I just wanted to at least give you this where you can have access to the source files of all this stuff if you want to actually get in the project and take a look. So let's jump into this project and take a look at what we're doing today. First things first here, I have a character model that I downloaded from Mixamo. This is actually an animation, but it comes with a model as well. Mixamo's free if you have an Adobe account, as far as I know. So if you want to grab a character model off there to experiment with this shader, feel free. If not, you can just use a sphere, no problem. First thing we want to do is go ahead and create a new folder here. We'll call this Fresnel. Open that, right click. Let's go create a new shader graph URP unlit. Let's name this Fresnel. Double click to open it up. I'll go ahead and turn on material override so we can change all this stuff as we please. Alright, so this is the primary node we're going to be working with today. This is the Fresnel effect node. And what a Fresnel does, let's just plug it in so we can see. Hit save, go back. Let's create a sphere. Right click our shader, create a material out of it. Name the material Fresnel as well. Drag and drop it on there. And what this does is I'm going to move this character over here as well. Apply it to them, to their mesh renderer. Okay. So what a Fresnel does is on curved edges that are facing the camera, I'm not going to get into the scientific, explanation of what a Fresnel is. Feel free to look that up. But what it does is basically if a mesh is curved and it's got a nice smooth curve, then it will create a sort of mask around those edges. And we can use that to do a lot of really cool effects that you see all the time in VFX. So let's look at how we can juice this up. Side note, since it only works on really nice, smoothly curved things, because it's acting as though light is kind of bending around it, it will not work on hard edge things like a cube, really. So this is exclusively for the smooth boys, characters, that have nice soft edges, spheres, whatever, orbs to ponder, anything you want except for super hard edges. So let's go into our shader and take a look at the properties here. So this is the power. This tells it how far in towards the center do you want it to travel. So if we set that to let's do a float because we can go above and beyond 1. Plug that in, convert it. Now if you go to your material, you'll see as you adjust this, it controls how far in that this Fresnel is going. And this is going to differ. As you see, it's kind of more thin on the character just because their body's more thin and kind of thicker on the sphere. This is going to vary based on the mesh you're using. But I will show you something cool that I prefer to do here. And let's remove this float. We are actually going to pass some noise into that power spot because it'll have a cool effect. And let's see, how do we want to do this? Let's do a power node. This is going to boost our white values by crazy amounts or lower them by crazy amounts. Higher it goes, it kind of brings out the dark values and makes the white ones go away. And if you bring it backwards, it just really blows them out. So let's get a float to control that. Plug it in, we'll do one default, convert that to our property. We'll call that Fresnel power. Plug that into the power spot. We will bring this back a bit, and as you can see, instead of having that sort of hard cutoff edge, it kind of, some parts will go further than others inwards, and that has a cool effect. But sometimes you just want kind of a basic Fresnel, and it's fine to just plug in a float into here, but I like how you get these rough edges and not just like a smooth gradient inwards. Just giving you some more options to work with here. And we will expand upon this. Let's go back into the shader so I can show you one more thing. Let's take a look at what happens if we plug in a screen position node into this. What this does is it says, hey, just face the camera, face the screen. So now, if I move my camera around, it'll always face towards me, which is useful for some things. I don't know, if you want a character to have a texture that always faces the camera, so it looks kind of like, you could do like glitchy effect with that or whatever. Up to you to get creative with it, but it's just interesting to be able to do that. So I figured I would note that, but we don't need to do that here. I think it'll be just fine without. So I don't want that black color, that black base color. I want to be able to choose the color that's underneath the Fresnel. And when you just add, let's get a classic rounded rectangle here. Just boost the size up to 1.1 everywhere so it fully fills. Ooh, we want that 0. So it fully fills the texture space. And imagine that this is a texture, you know, it's like a character texture or whatever. So if I multiplied this by a color, we'll say red. Plug that in, and let's multiply our Fresnel by a different color. Make this blue. And we just add those together as they are. You see how the colors blend together. You're not getting a definitive blue here and red here. They start blending and you get like looks like a pinkish, right? And that's because when you're adding two things together, you're literally putting them on top of each other. So the colors start blending, especially with softer edges and stuff like this. The colors are overlaying on top of each other and they can start blending. And I don't like that most of the time. Depends what I'm doing. So what you would do instead, let's get rid of this stuff for now. Leave the colors because we'll keep those. So what we can do, just like we did for that cylindrical burst video, we can subtract these two from each other so that the Fresnel leaves a black edge, and then we'll be replacing that edge that is blacked out here with the color, the colored edges. And this will be what we multiply by our base color. So we're just totally separating these two colors out and bringing them back together. And that helps you have much cleaner color options. So let's multiply this by the red. And then multiply our Fresnel by the blue. And then add them together. You see now we have that definitive blue rim and red center. And that is what I like to see. I like to be able to separate out my colors from each other. They're still obviously blending a bit because it's a soft edge and it starts to fade out. But you get the idea. Okay. So this works for me so far. We can keep all this. Let's go ahead and convert these colors into properties. Call this base color. Call this Fresnel color. Perfect. Okay. So let's make this Fresnel more interesting. And you know what? We're going to do something else with the Fresnel color. We want some more options. So let's remove this color. What we're going to do is we're going to create a lerp node because we love having multiple tones of color. So if I take this, let's create 2 colors. We'll do, I don't know, pink. I just like to do very obviously different colors. Copy paste it. Green, pink and green, sure. We'll plug those in there. If you remember, we briefly talked about this before. So if I plug in this into the time spot, it'll color all the white. I think that's the white at the bottom here, the B. It'll color all that green and all of the darker parts pink. So we can have multiple colors faded in. And having multiple colors just makes all your effects look better, in my opinion. So let's convert those. We'll call this Fresnel color 1. Convert that one. Fresnel color 2. Simple, easy. So now we can multiply the Fresnel by these colors. And we're using the same noise here. So it's going to line up with the noise of the Fresnel since we're using the same exact noise texture. So anything we do to this, we tile it, offset it, whatever, it's all going to be offsetting, tiling along with it. So we plug that in there. Now we get multiple colors. Very cool. So now we've got 3 different tones of color options here, which we love. Let's get a little more crazy with it, and let's add a tiling and offset node. Plug that into the UV spot. Let's go ahead and convert the scale into a property too, just in case we want to make it more dense. Just call this noise scale. And let's do a time node. Multiply. You remember where we're going with this. Vector 2. So that we can scroll this noise over time if we so choose. And let's get another vector 2 in here. Default it to 1 and plug it into tiling. Just so we have all the options we could ever want for this noise. Rename that to noise tiling. And we'll call this noise scroll. Let's hit save and check out all the options we just gave ourselves. So let's turn this back to a dark color just so we can see what's going on. So as you can see, we got our 2 color tones. We have scale, so we can make it more dense or more huge and in your face so you don't see all the little details. If it's huge like that, you're going to have more of a problem with the power node. But if we set it to 25, do the Fresnel power, works fine. And we can do whatever color combos we want here. Do a green and a blue. Can control the intensity here to add a little glow. When you do intensity with colors that are like right next to each other, you have to like balance them out because they'll start to overtake one another. So you kind of have to do equal parts intensity on those. And we can control the tiling. So we can make it like that. Very liney. And this is why I like doing the power into the Fresnel with the noise. So that way you get really cool edge options to where they start to come in and meet in the middle a little bit. Which, like I said, you might not always want that, but I think it looks cool. If you didn't want that, you can just switch this out for just a regular float. But here's what we can do to just give ourselves that option anyway. So we have a nice, powerful Fresnel shader. Let's create a branch node. We will plug this into false. And let's just plug a float into true. That way we're deciding between these two things. Just set that to 1 by default. And then plug this branch into here. Remember, branches just let us decide between two different things. Convert that. We'll call it Fresnel float power. Sure. We'll know what that means later. Create a boolean here. Remember, booleans are just yes, no toggles. If it's true, it's going to switch. Just like that. Let's convert it. We'll name this float power. I like to put my corresponding booleans for branches just directly above the properties, so I know that I need to enable that first before I can mess with what's below it. So now if I switch this, you see we get the regular old Fresnel. And you see how that looks kind of boring compared to the more fun kind of Fresnel that we have here, where it bleeds in more on the edges. Okay, so let's give ourselves even more options. Let's really, let's go all out here. So let's say maybe I don't always want these smooth edges for stylized stuff. I oftentimes want hard edges. So let's create a step node. We'll set, I think it's the bottom one. We'll set the bottom one to 0.5, and we are going to plug in this noise here. I don't know how well this is going to work with the power node. We might have to do another branch here. What would happen? What would happen if I plugged this into a power node? I don't think anything good. No, wouldn't do anything because the values aren't like ramping up like a gradient. So we will work our way around that. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Take this. Let's create a branch. And plug the... I guess we'll do this whole... Actually, let's do this sequence here. This branch. So that if this outcome is false... Sorry, I'm getting spaghetti all over with these nodes, but that's just how I roll sometimes. We'll plug that. No. Here's what we're going to do. Better idea. We are just going to do a multiply and a float. And this is going to act like the power is kind of acting. We're going to be able to control these values, these white values, and bring them down if we want. So this should act about the same. Okay, so now this time, so we have two separate options for the controlling the power of the Fresnel here. So we want to plug both of these into our branch. Let's plug that into true, create a boolean, plug that in there, plug the result into the power. So now we got 3 different power options. Crazy. So let's right click that, hit convert to property, and we'll name that step noise. So we're stepping the noise, and this will be our stepped Fresnel power. And we can go ahead and convert this step to a property as well. This allows us to just fill that space more if we want. Probably not going to mess with it. It'll probably stay at 0.5, but just in case, we'll name this step amount. It's always good to give yourself options. Okay, everything should be plugged in here. But we also want to give ourselves the color options. I'm going to move this up and out of the way just so I can see what's going on down here. You can feel free to organize your shaders in a nicer way. So let's create another branch here, and this will use that same Boolean we used before. So you can trigger multiple different branches with the same property, same Boolean, which is nice for just making big, broad changes to your shader that controls multiple different aspects. So now we're going to plug, not this one, because we aren't going to worry about multiplying the colors here and lessening their values like we would need to for the Fresnel power. We're just going to plug the base step node into true and our regular noise into false and plug that into time. So now you see, if we switch back and forth there, we have the hard edges of those colors. So we can take the same Boolean here, and you can actually, to stay even more organized, you don't have to create a connection from here to there. You can drag it out and it'll create you another one of the same exact thing. So you can have two different things doing the same, two different Booleans here that are both going to trigger. So now if we save, we go back and we turn this on, we're going to have to adjust. What do we got on here? What do we got on here that we shouldn't? What did we do? I don't think we plugged something in. What are we missing? Give me 1 sec so I can figure this out. Everybody, I am a complete moron sometimes. So let's backpedal a little bit. We're supposed to step after the Fresnel effect node. I don't know why I was trying to feed stepped information into there thinking it would work. My brain is just a little scrambled today. So let's backpedal. This is a learning experience. You get to watch me fail. So let's remove that, remove that. Remove that, remove that. Okay. And let's go ahead and remove this branch. So, foolish Brandon. This can stay the same. This worked great. We can replace that with... Guess I didn't have to delete that step node. Plug that in here. It's just so much more relatable watching me mess up, isn't it? Watching me just screw up in front of the whole internet. Okay, so now let's plug the result of our Fresnel into here. We'll set this to 0.5. Oop, other way. If it's flipped like that, just change around your nodes. There. So now we have the stepped Fresnel. And we will create a branch. I'm running out of space here. Move these up. Okay, and we'll say if it's true, do the stepped version. If not, do the regular version. Now we can plug that stepped amount in. Oop, not step amount. Step noise, Boolean. Plug that into there, and then plug that into our multiply with the colors. So now this should work. Yeah. Would you look at that? Still not giving me exactly what I want, though. Oh, it's because our power's totally disconnected now, too. Okay. Okay, so all we got to do is rehook up this branch here. Now we get a stepped result there. If this is set turned on, yeah, we get the hard edge step result. So we'll leave that off. I'll hit save. Let's go back and look at our options. Now this is very cool. So now if we do our Fresnel power, intensity is a little high, but look at that. We get these same kind of rigid edges and everything, but it's hard edged. And it looks so cool. Bring it inwards more. Let's bring down this intensity. This is a little much for my eyeballs. My monitor. Okay, so now we can really see what's going on. Yeah. So now we're getting hard edges, and we still have the multiple colored everything. Yeah, that looks great. Okay, so if we... let's say that's a good size. You don't want your Fresnel to cover too much. I guess unless stylistically you want it to be like that on the character. And that looks pretty sweet. If you did it like a, I don't know, inky colors or something, that could look kind of cool. With maybe like a white edge. But I like about this size. So let's do something cool. Let's create like a glitchy looking effect. Let's do like pink and like a light blue. Let's bring up our intensity to like 2. Just get a little bit of a glow on both colors. If we increase the tiling on the Y, we're going to get some like harder edges or some spikier edges. And we can add some of that scroll. I don't know if we messed with this yet, but this is going to scroll our noise. So if we do it on the X, we can do like -1. Oh yeah, that looks super cool. Increase it more so we can see it on the character. Don't like the maybe it's the scale that's bothering me. You're gonna have to find like a sweet spot here with having enough of an edge. Yeah, that looks better. Enough of an edge there where it's still kind of rigid. Again, it's working off the edges of the curve, so it's a little finicky. But that looks good on the sphere. Doesn't look as good on the character. So just find your sweet spot on each. And look at that. Let's increase the tiling some more. We decrease it for the character, decrease the amount. We have this super cool Fresnel. And this is kind of the basics of what a Fresnel is and some cool cases. And we can change our base color here. No problem. We're getting a little bit of weirdness with the tiling, I think. I don't know why we're getting that. Ah, that's why. So this subtract is still soft. So we also need to include that in a branch. Well, we can just plug the result of our branch here into that subtract node. So now it's going to actually subtract the proper thing from it. It's weird when you start working with all these subtraction and adding things together. You got to remember like where you need to step back to plug in these options, these branches. But yes, we were still getting the soft result before plugged into the subtract node. So we just needed to replace that with the branch that decides, are we stepping the noise or are we not? So now we don't get weirdness there. Great. Love it. Yep. Okay, let's create one more sphere, and I'll show you some more kind of basic stuff you could do with it. Let's duplicate our Fresnel material here, drop it on this sphere. Let's just do like a frosted look. So we'll set our tiling back to 1, scroll to none because we aren't going to have it scrolling. Let's not step it so we have that softness. Let's change our colors to like a white, blue. Let's get our intensity back down a bit. Bring that back up as needed. Let's see here. My base is a little dark here. I guess dark's fine. Let's bring our intensity back up. Get our scale back up so we get that nice noise. Let's bring our power back down a bit so we just get a little bit of the edges. Maybe bring up this. Oh yeah, that's cool. Look at that. We've got like a frosted orb. All thanks to this Fresnel. So you could do like ice spikes or whatever you wanted with this. And that's just how powerful Fresnel is. And that's why we use it all the time. Especially for creating like quick and dirty looks for things. Instead of sitting there and painting textures. It's nice to be able to use stuff like Fresnel on meshes to get a certain look you're going for. Yeah. Love that. Okay, well, I think that's about it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. As usual, if you enjoyed the content, do the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, share with everybody, show your mom, show your dad. And again, about my Patreon, you have access to all these source files. It's $5 a month, just one tier. I'm going to put it on a post that's only accessible to that tier. It's going to be a link. It's going to be a Google Drive. So you can just download the project. I will update it after every video and include whatever new stuff I've been working on in there. Free use. Do whatever you want with it. Just don't resell it on the asset store. Don't be a weirdo. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something new. And I will see you next time.